Carrying 26th of July banners, joyous followers of Fidel Castro sweep triumphantly through the Cuban capital hours after their rebellion had toppled the regime of Fulgencio Batista.
Oh my word, is this where we're staying? I guess we did ask for a casa particular in the old part of town. This is it, the yellow door. Oh my God. But the accommodation was very clean. The neighborhood certainly has atmosphere. First things first, a cold beer on the roof. Then we walked down our street towards the Malecon, Havana's Esplanade, passing the local veggie shop. And car repair center. People are so friendly. That's Morro Castle in the background. We're going to a ceremony there tomorrow night. The cocoa taxis. As evening approached, we decided to walk a few kilometers up the Malecon to the Hotel International. All visiting dignitaries and heads of state from around the world have stayed here. It's a little austere inside. They even show you who stayed in what room. We walked through to the beautiful gardens at the rear, me and my shorts and sandals, and had a drink. Then, getting bolder, we asked if we could have dinner in their Lani dining room, to which they readily agreed. There was even a bit of live opera thrown in. And then home by Cocoa Taxi, who robbed us, but it was better than walking. The next morning, we set out through the back streets of Havana to explore.
We might just do Havana, Havana Center, all the main places.
Which way? We passed the Hotel Regis, one of the many buildings earmarked for renovation. The Paseo de Marti. A lovely double road with this wide walkway in between. Where they sometimes dance and have sort of street markets. Everything was very clean. This leads down to the Park Central, a busy hub where all the old cars gather. Just around the corner was El Floridita, an old historic fish restaurant and cocktail bar in the older part of Havana, or La Havana Vieja as it's called. It was humming. Famous for its daiquiris and for having been one of the favorite hangouts of Ernest Hemingway. Then along Obispo Street, the main shopping street of Havana. But I must admit it didn't quite look the part. Little side streets with restaurants and bands playing. Fantastic. At the end of the road, you suddenly come across this peaceful little park. And just around the corner was the Plaza de la Catedral. I was hugely taken by the cathedral's architecture and stonework, and the plaza, which was surrounded by colonnaded buildings. We're off to Morro Castle for the firing of the cannon ceremony. The castle was built in 1589 to guard the entrance to Havana Bay. Started in the 17th century, the cannon was fired each evening at 9 p.m. to alert the community that the gates to the city would be closed. This ceremony is still held each evening. The next morning, we walked down past the quite appealing harbour entrance, the cruise ships are already here, to the Museum of the Revolution. It's housed in what was the presidential palace of all Cuban presidents, from Menocal to Batista, and became the Museum of the Revolution after the Castro-led uprising in 1959. It's an interesting contrast to see the displays of the revolutionary struggle housed inside an ornate palace. We didn't realize it, but it was the anniversary of Castro's death, 25th of November 2016, and these bikers had come for a ceremony of some kind. there are quite a few beautiful plazas around the old town. These people always fascinate me. This one's real. Then we climbed into an old vintage Chevy and, passing the old theatre and Capitol buildings, headed west to the outskirts of old Habana, the Jose Marti Memorial in Revolution Square, where many political rallies took place and where Castro addressed the people. Notable are two buildings whose facades feature steel memorials of the two most important deceased heroes of the Cuban Revolution, Che Guevara and Camilo Cienfuegos.
Some areas are...
Then we drove further west through Vinales, over the Almendades River, which really separates the old city from the western, more affluent area. Lovely parklands, picnic area and children's play areas. Notably, obviously, a wealthier community. Back to Havana Vieja, or Old Town, and the famous La Bodeguita del Medio. Attracted by the bohemian charm of the place, writers, choreographers, musicians and journalists used to meet here in a convivial ambiance. The rooms are full of curious objects, frames, photos, as well as walls covered by signatures of famous or unknown customers recounting the island's past. It lays dubious claim to being the birthplace of the mojito cocktail, prepared in the bar since its opening in 1942. A bit touristy, but what a great atmosphere. We still hadn't had a drive in one of those great old coupes, and as we were leaving for the countryside the next day, we had to do it. We're in. With the iconic Morro Castle in the background, we said goodbye to Havana. We collected our hire car and headed west for Vinales, which lies in the Vinales Valley in the province of Pinar del Rio. This area is the center of the cigar industry and has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Center. Tobacco and other crops are also cultivated on the bottom of the valley. What a beautiful sight! This was our Casa Particular, very nice. We wandered into town, past the bakery, and up the road, passing restaurant after restaurant, to the main square with its picturesque little church. What a contrast, this little gem of a town, set in such natural beauty compared to the bustle and decay of old Havana. The Russian Ladas are everywhere, modelled on the old Fiat 124, I think. Nearby is the mural of prehistory, painted on the cliffs. It's 120 meters high, 160 meters in length, and depicts the evolution of life. Now we're walking down to the meeting point to partake in a horse ride through the valley. And I've never been on a horse before. They're so high, and no ladder for goodness sake. Good girl, Caramello.
Good. Amigo, you relax now.
But Caramello, that's my horse's name, behaved herself, despite having a nervous wreck clinging to her back. Very beautiful. Don't listen to him. We stopped at one of the tobacco drying sheds and watched a pro rolling cigars.
De la palma real, es el árbol nacional de Cuba, se utiliza como un protector.
And then headed on to a coffee farm.
Everything here is done by hand. Here we don't have a machine, and this is natural park. Esta miel no tiene químicos, no tiene azúcar, solo natural.
Time to mount up and head for home. Many caves dot the surrounding hill faces, and we visited one called the Cueva del Indio. The area surrounding the cave was beautiful, apparently used as an ancient dwelling.
We met each other at the Rex office, and we thought it was their car because they were first. For officer.
That evening, we went to the local dance hall. Our journey now takes us to Playa Larga via Havana. This area, of course, is better known as the Bay of Pigs. We booked into our casa and watched the locals getting on with their lives. Then it was down to see the bay. Breathtaking. Why don't we do this? It looks so peaceful.
Ahí.
¡Ey! 1-0.
And the little harbour looked even more peaceful. But down the bay at Giron is a museum which tells another story. The Bay of Pigs invasion began when a CIA-financed and trained group of Cuban refugees landed in Cuba and attempted to topple the communist government of Fidel Castro. John F. Kennedy had approved the final invasion plan. The attack in April 1961 on the beaches of Playa Giron in the Bay of Pigs was an utter failure, and the invading force was defeated within 3 days by the Cuban forces. The failed invasion made Castro a national hero. It also reinforced the relations between Cuba and the Soviet Union. The Heroes of Giron portrays headshots of each comrade who perished in the fighting and contains an opening epitaph by Fidel Castro. On a lighter note, on the way back to our casa, we stopped off here, lured by a sign that said if you had lunch, you could drink as much as you liked for free. What would you do?
This is a Cuba Libre. Jason, for you, rum and coke. With a touch of supposed to be lemon, but I haven't got the lemon.
Back home and enjoying the sunset on the beach. The next morning, we set off for Cienfuegos. Settled into our casa, which had a beautiful view of the bay, and walked around the corner, past the old palace, to the hotel for the obligatory drink by the pool. Then we did a little shopping at the street vendors. Took a quiet walk through the lovely old graveyard. And drove down to Palmera, a cute neighboring village, loaded a pig in the back, which sports a delightful little square and picturesque Spanish-style church. Then we found this place that practices a form of voodoo, but nothing was going on. Later, we took a most enjoyable evening cruise around the bay.